Four-time world champion Max Verstappen may be approaching a split from Red Bull in one of the biggest twists in recent Formula One history, and the man tasked with preventing this catastrophe has a clear name: Laurent Mekies, the new team principal who has just been handed a powder keg on the verge of explosion. The pressure on the Frenchman is so great that analysts are already pointing out that he has only one urgent task: to ensure that the Dutchman stays with the team. But is there still time to reverse a situation that seems increasingly delicate? To understand the seriousness of the situation, we need to go back a few weeks. Red Bull, which until recently seemed like an indestructible fortress in the paddock, began to disintegrate internally in a way that no one could have anticipated. Christian Horner, who had led the team for almost 20 years, was removed amid a series of internal controversies that disrupted the entire organizational structure. Adrian Newey, the master of aerodynamics and true creator of the winning cars, opted to move to Aston Martin in a decision that took everyone completely by surprise. Jonathan Wheatley, an experienced sporting director and respected figure in the paddock, also left. Suddenly, a team that appeared to have everything under control was turned into an internal battlefield where every day brought a new crisis. Amid all this confusion, information emerged that sent shockwaves through the Formula One world. Max Verstappen was reportedly in secret talks with Mercedes boss Toto Wolff. These were not casual paddock conversations, but serious meetings involving Raymond Vermeulen, the driver's representative. What does this mean in practice? That the man who has sustained Red Bull throughout this season is seriously considering a radical change of environment. And here is the most alarming detail. Although Verstappen has a contract until 2028, there are specific clauses that could be triggered as early as this summer, allowing him to leave the Austrian team immediately. Jolyon Palmer, former driver and now a respected commentator, did not mince his words when analyzing the critical situation unfolding in Milton Keynes. According to him, Mekies must resolve the Verstappen issue immediately, as the Dutchman has literally become the glue that keeps the whole team running. And the numbers are clear. Of all the points scored by Red Bull this season, only 7 were not scored by Verstappen. This indicates that Yuki Tsunoda, his teammate, contributed less than 5% of the total results. Such extreme dependence on a single driver is risky under any circumstances, but it becomes catastrophic when that driver has one foot out the door and is exploring other alternatives. The pressure on Mekies is even greater when we examine the full context of the restructuring Red Bull is undergoing. Helmut Marko, the veteran Austrian advisor, is practically the last survivor of Red Bull's old guard. Palmer emphasized that Gianpiero Lambiase, Verstappen's track engineer, will likely be given more responsibilities, precisely because he has a solid relationship and mutual trust with the four-time champion. But even this successful partnership may not be enough to convince Verstappen to stay if he feels that the structure around him is disintegrating and that the long-term project is at risk. And here arises a fundamental question that could determine the future of the category. What would really motivate Verstappen to consider such a drastic move? It is not a financial issue, obviously. The Dutchman is already among the highest-paid drivers on the grid and has more than adequate financial resources. It is not a lack of immediate competitiveness, because even with all the internal problems, he still managed to take pole position at Silverstone recently, demonstrating that he can still get the most out of the car. What seems to be at issue is something much deeper: confidence in Red Bull's long-term project and the stability of the structure surrounding him in the coming years. Mercedes, on the other hand, represents a unique and tempting opportunity for the Dutchman. With George Russell established as a fast and reliable driver, and Andrea Kimi Antonelli arriving as the great Italian promise for the future, Verstappen could join a team that is rebuilding but has solid foundations and a historic winning mentality. It would be an opportunity to work with Toto Wolff, one of the most respected team bosses in the paddock, and to participate in an ambitious project that aims to regain the top spot in Formula One after years of difficulties. Imagine the symbolism. the driver who dominated the Red Bull era, helping Mercedes regain its leading position. From a strategic standpoint, Verstappen's departure would be a devastating blow to Red Bull in multiple ways, not only because of the results on the track, but also because of the impact on team morale, sponsor confidence, and the ability to attract talent in the future. How does a team convince a top driver to join when even the four-time world champion didn't want to stay? It's a vicious cycle that could take years to reverse and would put Red Bull in an extremely vulnerable position in the driver market. But there is another side to the coin that cannot be ignored. Mekies is no rookie in the paddock. He has solid experience, has worked with Yuki Tsunoda previously, and knows the internal dynamics of Formula One teams well. If anyone can stabilize the situation at Red Bull, it's him. And here's the crucial point. Verstappen has not yet made a final decision. The talks with Mercedes may be a way to pressure Red Bull to resolve its internal problems and ensure the ideal conditions for him to continue wearing the Austrian team's blue. The deadline to resolve this situation is very short, and the pressure is mounting every day. The contractual clauses that would allow Verstappen to leave have specific windows, and some of them close this summer. This means that Mekies has at most a few weeks to convince the Dutchman to stay. And how do you do that? First, by stabilizing the team's technical structure and ensuring that the right talents are in the right places. Second, ensuring that the 2026 car is competitive and capable of fighting for victories. Third, resolving the issue of the second driver, because the current situation with Tsunoda is clearly not sustainable in the long term. The truth is that we are at a historic crossroads in Formula One. If Verstappen really leaves Red Bull, it will be one of the biggest paradigm shifts in recent years. A driver at the peak of his career, a four-time world champion, leaving the team that took him to the top to join a historic rival. This would completely change the balance of power on the grid and could mark the beginning of a new era in the category, with new alliances and rivalries. On the other hand, if Mekies manages to convince Verstappen to stay, it will be an impressive display of leadership and proof that Red Bull still has the structure to remain at the top. But that will require much more than nice words. It will require concrete actions, targeted investments, and a complete overhaul of the team's internal culture. What we know for sure is that the coming months will be decisive not only for Max Verstappen, but for the future of Red Bull itself. A team that has dominated Formula One in recent years is now struggling to hold on to its greatest asset, and everything depends on Laurent Mekies' ability to quickly resolve the most important crisis in the team's recent history. The question that remains is, will he succeed? What do you think will happen? Will Verstappen stay or go? Leave your opinion in the comments and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any news about this drama that is just beginning.